talking about the sci-fi horror-tinged action movie Black Site. This one is directed and written by Tom Patton. I will tell you what this movie wants to be. It wants to be Die Hard in the mind of H.P. Lovecraft. Sound intriguing? Well, just hang fire just there for a second. So this is a story of a world where humanity has to kind of manage, so to speak, the elder gods, which are kind of Cthulhu-esque type creatures that kind of try to invade our world, and there is an agency that basically tries to kind of send them back into their own dimension in these black sites. So this focuses on this particular kind of black site, and we have this kind of team of agents that are wanting to send back this particular god, which is the fifth oldest being in creation. And to kind of, for purposes of the story and to save budget, they basically kind of put these elder gods inside the body of a human being. So it's basically just a guy. So don't get too excited. You're not going to see much in regards to special effects. So they put this kind of elder god essence within this kind of guy, like body of a murderer, and trying to send him off to this particular other dimension. Anyway, this kind of one day this particular one comes in, and they're going to send this elder god off, like they've kind of said they're going to do, and there's a kind of like a variety of different kind of magical practices that you have to do to do this. And the facility is invaded by a kind of group of elder gods cultists who want to ultimately free this particular elder god. So that's your basic premise here. So what works in this film? One thing that I found surprising here, I actually really like the soundtrack. The soundtrack doesn't fit the movie at all, if you ask me. It's this kind of 80s style kind of electro pop, but nonetheless, I actually kind of quite liked it. I actually enjoyed the music quite a bit in this, because I think it was very kind of, definitely a kind of synthy 80s feel. So that was quite good. I have to say, I mean, there's a fair amount of ambition in this film in regards to some of its ideas in this kind of like Lovecraftian kind of style setup. And there are a couple of instances where we do see some very kind of Lovecraftian imagery. They're very quick shots, and they're just kind of like showing you the true forms of these kind of these kind of creatures. But they're all kind of like obscured and kind of from a distance and stuff like that. But it does look pretty good. It's very kind of, if you think like The Mist, think like that basically. So that was quite good. I have to say some of the fight choreography wasn't too bad either. There's some fairly kind of good fight scenes. Like I said, this kind of follows a Die Hard clone style kind of movie. So there's lots of fight scenes where a kind of there's an individual who's kind of the leader of our kind of main protagonist, this woman who we find has a connection to this kind of elder god, and she's got this kind of like goofy kind of sidekick who doesn't really know what he's doing. A couple of other people as well. So we have a small group of protagonists, and there's some fairly good sort of fight scenes in regards to some of the sort of characters here. But what doesn't work? So here's the other thing that struck me first of all when I watched this film. First few minutes of this film, I thought, oh no, please don't tell me. Yes, it's one of those films where English actors try to do American accents and fail. Fail big time. I've seen a few films recently where this has happened. So obviously this is a British film trying to appeal to American audiences. So they say to the actors, can you do an American accent? Oh yeah, definitely can. Yeah. You can't. I mean, to be fair, in this film, some fare better than some of the other kind of ones that I've seen recently. But it's a real mixed bag here. Some of the acting is appalling in regards to some of these attempts at doing American accents, and the problem is that it's just so distractingly bad. The acting just seems horrible because of it. Now, not all the actors fare this bad. I mean, there are a couple who do seem more convincing, I would say, and there may even be. I think there's a couple of actors here who have spent time in America and grown up there, so they obviously fare better. But a lot of them, it's about 50-50. Some of the kind of the attempts here are truly awful, and I just don't know why it's done. Well, I do know why it's done. It's done because they want to sell the movie in America, but they can't do it. Just get them to speak in their native English accent. I mean, it's meant to be an international team, for Christ's sake. So that was the first thing. The next thing, the cinematography here is very bland. It's all kind of set in this kind of, I mean, they've obviously found this kind of location where it's just kind of like sort of tunnels and kind of like a warehouse kind of like looking place, but it looks really drab. It's also grossly underlit in places, so the movie is just kind of hard to watch in regards to a cinematography standpoint. The story, it just can't sustain this kind of idea of these kind of elder gods. And when it comes down to it, this film ultimately, when you get the kind of the premise out of the way and the kind of the backstory, two things happen within this movie. It's fighting in a corridor or talking in a corridor, and then switching up between one of those two things. And when I say talking, what I actually mean is exposition dumps. So yeah, we have an exposition dump with some characters telling you some backstory because we can't afford to show any of this. And then we have a fight scene. Once I've said, I did quite enjoy some of the fight scenes, but nonetheless, it just is that rinse and repeat. And that is pretty much like 85% of this film, is just those sort of things. I really didn't, the connection that was made between our central protagonist and this kind of, this elder god, it was just, was kind of tenuous and kind of hammy. And speaking of hammy, the dialogue. Oh, the dialogue. I mean, this film could have done with taking itself a little bit less seriously, because some of this dialogue here is seriously cheesy. So this movie becomes a little bit of a kind of a struggle to sit through, because it takes itself too seriously. It's not particularly visually interesting, even with kind of flashes of kind of like of some, you know, some special effects here and there. It's not really enough with the bulk of the story to kind of keep you interested. And the problem is the acting isn't uniformly good enough to kind of keep you interested. And the dialogue is horrible, so you just don't buy into the characters, and ultimately it's kind of boring. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.